Hey, Al here. If you like what we're doing and you like the conversation, consider hitting that subscribe button. Now, here we go. Hey, how is everybody? Welcome to the channel. My name is Al, and today we are talking the fantasy series on Amazon, Carnival Row. Now, this is really interesting because I've seen a lot of reviews about this, and a lot of people have mixed reviews or mixed feelings about this. I personally loved it. I'm a big fantasy fan, so the fantasy elements in this alone almost were enough for me to be interested and to be able to see season 1 through. But there's a couple of things I want to discuss with you, so stay with me here because I want you to think about some things, and I want to know what your response would be for that. Now, first I want to get into the acting of the performances because I do have to share my opinion about how well Orlando Bloom and Cara Delevingne did in this, which I thought was fine. I thought it was actually very well acted. I thought their chemistry was pretty good as well. There have been a lot of complaints about neither one of them really being able to carry the lead in a show just because they're really not that strong in terms of actors, especially when they're playing the lead. I thought they actually did a very good job, and I was really pleased with the performances in this show. I also really love the world building in this as well. The fantasy element was really good. So to me, if you have any show that is done really well, it's going to have a transportive and immersive factor in it, in the sense that you're going to sit down and be able to watch it, step out of your real life, leave that behind, and immerse yourself in the experience of the show or the movie that you're watching. It's very similar to a song that moves you, a song that transports you to a place in your head. A good TV show or a good movie should be able to do that, and Carnival Row did end up doing this to me. It wasn't at first. The first 2 episodes were a little bit slow because I felt like the show was a little unfocused in terms of what actually the point was of the show. Now, here's where it's important for you to stay with me because I'm going to share some things that probably are a lot different than some of the other reviews that you saw. But then it appeared that the show had a focus, which was really solving a murder mystery. There are some gruesome murders that go on, and the through line in this show is trying to find out who committed those murders so that they can solve those murders. It seems like that is the main point or plot of the show. It is not the main point or plot of the show. We'll get to that in a second. We'll talk more about that rather in a second. I also thought that the world building was really interesting in that we had all of these different fantasy elements. We've got fae, we've got pucks, we've got kobolds, we've got fauns, we've got centaurs. We've also got a lot of other different fantasy creatures that we don't even really find out much about in the show. But the fantasy element is very high in the show, and to me, that makes me very excited. And the fact that we didn't find out about all of the different ones that we saw still doesn't bother me because I feel like there's more to build on if we get season 2. So I was really impressed with the fantasy element as well. Now, let's go back to what is happening with the focus of the show. What is the real plot of season 1? Here's where I want you to think about this, especially if you've seen the show and follow me. Because the plot of the show is really not about the murder mystery. What's interesting is that there are a lot of quote-unquote subplots with a lot of different things going on, with a whole bunch of political elements to the show, and then there's a whole bunch of classism and racism going on, and all of these things kind of converge at the end to give us a full picture of what season 1 was really about, which was not the murder mystery. And it's interesting, right? So here's where I really want to know what you think, because a lot of people that have critiqued the show have talked about the political aspect of the show being something that kind of weighed the show down and was not necessarily that interesting. But I want to submit to you that the whole point of this show was the political aspiration. And when you think about it, if you've seen the whole series, even the murders that were committed was for political and social gain. That really was the through line story, not the murders. They were a means to an end to get to that end point. But all of those different elements, all of those different kind of side stories, if you will, all converged to tell you what the true meaning of the episode was. The true through line, or the true essence of season 1, was really about classism, was really about racism, was really about political and class posturing and positioning. That's really what all of it was about. I think that the other issues are important, and they may be very close to front and center of the core of what season 1 was talking about, but they're still fringe issues. The main thrust of season 1 was the political posturing and all of those things. Now, you do have the different things, the different aspects of the things going on with the different races and the different beings and the different things that are happening in the show, but all of those things are towards positioning, are towards classism. Those were really the main themes of season 1 of this show. And I think a lot of people have missed that. That's my position on that. That's the question that I'm posing to you. If you've seen the show, do you agree with that? Now, some people are going to have problems with that because I know that, especially within the climate that we're in today, they feel like those themes are very heavy-handed. We're dealing a lot with that here in the States, if you happen to be watching this somewhere else in the world. So I'm not sure if this show was really kind of trying to tackle those themes head on and really be political in nature, in terms of really kind of provide an entertainment lens to talk about those things. I don't necessarily feel that way, but I do think that is the thrust of season 1. Now, maybe things will vary from that path. Maybe things will open up, but I don't think that they will much, because I think that seems to be the core of what the show is doing. But who knows what paths they can take. So I just wanted to put that before you, food for thought. Let me know what you think about that. One of the things that I'm really excited about with season 2, and from what I understand, we've already got season 2 in the books in the sense that it's on the way, is that I hope that we do get a lot more origin building in season 3, because there were so many different creatures, you guys, and some of them were just kind of woven into the world building. There was not really a focus on them, but there are so many different creatures to pay attention to. There are so many different factions to find out more about. So the show has potential to grow and really give us a lot of different elements as the seasons roll by. So that I'm very excited about as well, because I feel like the mythology and the world building can become even broader, and I have the sense that we are going to leave the Burgess area and expand and find out even more. So I think, to me, the value of Carnival Row is that it has a lot of potential to really grow and expand and do some really interesting things. And I'm not necessarily bothered by the political aspect of it. I get it, though. I get if some people are like, look, man, I'm tired of all of these different themes or all of these different agendas being fused into our entertainment. Let me just sink into the show and enjoy it without you pulling all of these elements from my real life into the show. I get that. It doesn't bother me as much, but for those that are there, I get that. But I think the Carnival Row has real potential. I think the production value was fantastic. There were some places, I admit, because folks have mentioned this, and they're right, where the CGI was a bit spotty and you could tell, but I felt like it was okay in the sense that it was permissible because the world building was interesting enough for me to overlook it. So I didn't have any issues with that. I also thought that the way they wove the fantasy element into the broader story was done really, really well also, and I thought that the characters had a nice degree of depth to them. They were all interesting. None of the characters really seemed surface to me. Every character that was really highlighted in the show made me want to find out more about them, and they pulled me into the narrative enough that they gave me also enough information about them to make me feel some kind of way about each of the individual characters. So I thought from a writing aspect, the show was really well done as well. Just a heads up, the show is super graphically violent, so this is something that you do not want to watch with kids. That's a heads up if you were thinking you were going to sit down on the couch and watch it with Johnny with some popcorn. No, don't do that. But I do think that Carnival Row is a really interesting show. It's a really fun show. I think that if you are a fantasy fan and you haven't seen this show, like I know that some folks have said, well, they're not going to watch it because they just can't get past Cara Devine and Orlando Bloom. I think that's a mistake. I think that you need to give this show a try, and I think that you might be pleasantly surprised at how much you can sink into the show and really enjoy what's going on with Carnival Row. So if you love fantasy, I really think you'll enjoy Carnival Row. Don't forget that we live stream twice a week, every Monday and Wednesday, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Make sure that you turn on your notification bell so that you don't miss it. It is a ton of fun. For right now, I'm going to these videos over here, and I'll meet you guys there. Peace.